The red-tailed hawk. My mother was a can-do Quaker, an organizer and a manager second to none. She could whip up a turkey dinner for a huge crowd, and she'd marshal whoever was around to help with the cooking. Summer after summer, she transformed angst-ridden teenagers into responsible camp counselors who returned to their lives with self-confidence along with their tans. As she aged, her body took on a starting line tilt. Right foot forward, elbows out, ossified in the charge position. Shortly after her 95th birthday, Mother suffered a stroke that left her bedridden. She announced that she wanted to die. None of us doubted that she would do exactly that. The East Coast branch of the family gathered round, and my sister moved a folding cot into the living room of Mother's apartment to be at her side. Days passed, then weeks. When my sister exhausted her vacation, it was my turn. I booked a one-way flight from the mountains of rural California to Philadelphia, arriving at Mother's Quaker retirement home to find her weak, but holding forth from bed. We quickly settled into a routine. Every morning, I brushed her teeth, put them in her mouth, removed the clips from her hair, and groomed her for the day she would die. I spoon-fed her pureed spinach and sorbet, and monitored the many visitors who came to say goodbye. Anyone but a Quaker would say Mother was hell-bent on dying. Death, however, remained elusive. One night she waked me up with that wristband alarm that she generally refused to wear before her stroke. "What time is it?" she asked. 1:15 midnight, I said. "Oh no," she moaned. "I was planning to die tonight." "Well, Mom, you still have plenty of time." She laughed and we chatted quietly until she fell asleep. The effrontery of death defying my mother was amusing, but it was also frustrating. We each knew that laughing about it was helping her cling to life, not leave it. I tried to quiet the apartment to give her the space to die in her own way. I limited visitors. I forbid cell phones. I could see Mother gathering her familiar, formidable determination for the task. She adopted a mantra, "I must let go." But she recited it like, "I think I can, I think I can." Death is daunting. To mount the challenge, Mother had to release all that had helped her take charge in life. One night after I had tucked her in bed, I heard her crying, harsh, wrenching sobs that she tried to suppress. I can count on one hand the times I've heard my mother cry. They were never like this. It broke my heart, yet I sensed this was a solitary meditation, a time when she faced the realization that we are not in charge after all. Much as I longed to hold and comfort her, I honored her privacy. Humility, the final virtue, abides no company. Mother's dying was hard for me too. I found my strength in the woods surrounding her retirement home. Every morning I ran the perimeter of the campus as if my life depended upon it. The woodlands in spring were raucous with eastern birds whose names and calls I barely remembered, despite the many mnemonic tricks my mother taught me. Sometimes I crossed the highway to my childhood Quaker meeting house and the cemetery where we buried my father under a white oak tree planted around the time of William Penn. One morning, I saw a flicker of red through the underbrush off a back campus trail. It was too much for a robin, too muted for a cardinal. I had heard about a pair of red-tailed hawks nesting somewhere on the grounds, but I dismissed this possibility. The red-tails I know in the West choose trees much taller than any of those. Still, the notion of a young life pipping, a stone's throw from where Mother's was ebbing, this was as much respite as the running itself. I found myself looking for that scarlet flash, and renewed when I saw it. I never caught more than a glimpse, never enough to be sure, but I clung to these secret sightings like a talisman. Mother was gradually fading. She stopped eating, stopped speaking. Her breaths came farther and farther apart. Finally, on a Monday, just past midnight, they stopped. I had been by her side less than 30 minutes earlier, holding her hand and singing softly. It did not surprise me that she died alone, meeting death in a final act of will. I spent the morning making the obligatory calls and endless arrangements. By early afternoon, I was exhausted and desperate to get away from the telephone, the empty bed. I walked across the highway to the meeting house to commune with my father. Plunking down near his headstone, I leaned against the white oak and fell asleep. 5 minutes might have passed, an hour. I waked up suddenly, and there overhead was a red-tailed hawk flying in slow, deliberate circles above me, around and around. Impromptu and out loud, I called, "Hi, Mom!" Then I began giggling. That summer, a pair of red tails raised a fledgling in my mountain meadow. I saw it nearly every day, sometimes circling over the valley near home, sometimes perched in a gigantic California oak. I watched it learn to hunt, amused by my fascination with this bird. I listened for its call, a piercing "Kier" my mother had not taught me. I thrilled at the flash of scarlet tail feathers backlit by the sun. The next spring, I waited for the hawk to reappear, but it was gone. I shed a tear, blew a kiss to the Sierra sky, and wished it well.